Hello, friends. Welcome back to ABN's Training Channel for another episode of Islam and the News. Today is Friday, December 1st, in the year of our Lord, 2017. And as always, it's a blessing to have so many people around the world tuning in to watch your Islamic news source, Islam and the News, found only on ABN's Training Channel. We thank you so much for your prayers and for your financial support, which allow all these shows to continue, the weekly shows, as well as the 2 marathons each year, and also all of the different digital platforms that we are on now. If you have an Apple or Android device, Amazon Fire Stick, Roku, Apple TV, the list goes on. Just go to trinitychannel.com/platforms, and you can find all the different ways that you can watch this show live. But of course, it's also on ABN's Trinity Channel's YouTube channel, as well as my Vimeo channel, vimeo.com/Tony Goulet, where I upload all of the episodes of Islam and the News and Colliding Worldviews and Russia Christie's Truth Matters and all the other shows that we do and the public speaking presentations that I do and all that stuff. Find it all on my Vimeo channel. But we are so thankful for everyone to be tuning in. And this is now December, the very last month of 2017. It's a great time to call ABN, go on the website, say, hey, I want to help support this network in the new year. In 2018, I want to be a regular giver. I want to give monthly. I want to give quarterly, however you want to do it. Or if nothing else, say, hey, I want to help ABN end the year strong by a donation that I want to give. So we thank you so much. Please pray about supporting ABN, not only at the end of the year, but also on a monthly basis in 2018 as we continue to expand. We do have some good news coming out here soon, so we are so thankful, again, for your financial support and your prayers. Please continue both of those because they're so vital. Now, as usual, I'm here with an hour's worth of news stories for you, and just so thankful for everyone who tunes in and for you letting other people know about ABN in the Trinity Channel and all the weekly shows that we do as well. So please continue to spread the word as well. I have here from Daily Mail, as usual, ISIS up to no good. I have ISIS children execute a spy by chopping his arms off with swords in horrific video before young child stands on victim's decapitated head to deliver threat to the group's enemies. Now, don't worry, we don't have a video to play for you here. There is a video on the website where I got this from, but we're just going to be showing you some pictures and some censored ones at that. But it says here, disgusting video shows 2 boys chopping off an alleged spy's arms with swords. Then a younger boy, no older than 10, saws his head off by using a hunting knife. Then a victim said to be Afghan who worked for the U.S. before being murdered by ISIS. Bloodthirsty ISIS butchers have released their most gruesome video to date, showing a child no older than 10 standing on a decapitated head and threatening death to spies, any future spies, I guess, who they claim is around there. The tiny lad, dressed in camouflage gear, was part of an execution party that ended the life of a man who was condemned as a spy. First, he was chained to 2 trees with his arms stretched out as he confessed his crimes. As you can see there, even by the censored photos, very gruesome act that took place here, the 2 older boys who appeared to be in their late teens stepped forward and chopped off his arms with giant swords. One of the boys then decapitated the victim with a hunting knife before the smaller lad placed his tiny boot on the man's head and delivered his clearly coached speech. The man is said to have been a U.S. spy, and the executioners were orphans whose parents were said to have been killed in airstrikes. The alleged spy was dealt with in gruesome fashion by ISIS captors after he was arrested for passing information to Pakistani and U.S. forces in Afghanistan. Also, speaking of ISIS, I have here as well from Daily Mail, soon on your holidays, quote unquote, ISIS fanatics call for attacks on Christmas markets and chilling posters containing images of Santa Claus kneeling with his hands tied in front of a jihadist. The images have soon on your holidays written in English, French, and German. Images circulated on messaging app by supporters of the Islamic State. German police say they have uncovered an ISIS plot to attack markets, and Foreign Office is warning Britons traveling to Christmas markets to be vigilant. ISIS fanatics have issued a chilling threat to attack Christian markets in Britain, France, and Germany, and pictures circulated among supporters. The jihadis have circulated images on messaging apps, including one in which a black-clad hooded figure is seen standing over a kneeling Santa Claus with an image of Regent Street in the background. A message in English, French, and German says, "Soon on your holidays," with a clear implication that London can expect a terrorist attack over this holiday season. The image was intercepted by Black Ops Cyber, a darknet intelligence company, the Epoch Times reported. And pro-ISIS media group also circulated images of a jihadi and a wolf standing over a burning Vatican. As an accompanying message with no punctuation on the letter said, "Their convoys will crowd itself in front of you. Prepare and plan for them. The meaning of terrorism. Kill them and do not hold back with your blood. The reward is paradise. And let them know that you are from an ummah," a Muslim community, "where mountains bow down to. We will not forget our revenge for every drop of blood that they have shed. We will not exclude the young, elderly, or women who are all in the crosshairs of our arrows, and what is about to come is even worse." So again, that's exactly the wording of this thing. Like I said, no punctuation there, so trying to decipher that. It says their bombardment on the center of Catholicism has been a recent theme. A photo depicting Pope Francis being beheaded was shared last week as well. But continuing on with ISIS and the terror threat from them, I have from PJ Media, ISIS teases Vegas an upcoming sequel to original film threatening America. It says here the Islamic State is promoting a forthcoming sequel to its most infamous movie that threatened America at the beginning of the Caliphate, with the new trailer showing a fire raining down on several U.S. cities before America is engulfed in a fireball. ISIS official Al-Hayat Media Foundation didn't give a release date for Flames of War 2 until the final hour, unquote, quote unquote, but distributed the trailer extensively across many open media platforms, including YouTube and Google Drive. The teaser begins with a rapid-fire montage of fiery battle scenes that appear to be from Iraq or Syria. The focus then shifts to the United States, with columns of fire raining down on Los Angeles, Florida, New York, Texas, and Nevada, labeled on the U.S. map. And I also have from Catholic News Agency, memorial mass held in U.S. for victims of Islamic State. In observance of a week promoting awareness of Christians persecuted internationally, the Chaldean Archbishop of Erbil offered a mass in Washington, D.C. on Tuesday for victims of the Islamic State, stating that suffering offer opportunities for kindness. It says here, quote, "Is there a blessing in being persecuted for the faith?" Archbishop Bashar Warda asked November 28th. It says here, quote, "The grace of being persecuted. God shows his love and care through the solidarity being shown by those outside. Also, the suffering gives a chance to people of a goodwill to show their love." Organized by Catholic agencies including Knights of Columbus and the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, the Mass was held at the St. John Paul II National Shrine in Washington, D.C. A day of prayer was held on the previous Sunday for the Islamic State victims, all part of, quote, "solidarity in suffering, a week of awareness for persecuted Christians." From Virtual Jerusalem, I have Trump White House announces embassy move to Jerusalem, backtracks and says, quote, "no imminent announcement on move." The White House pushed back on claims Wednesday that President Donald Trump is days away from announcing the relocation of the U.S. Embassy in Israel from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, and an official statement recognizing Jerusalem as Israel's capital. Earlier on Wednesday, Israel's Channel 2 reported that senior officials in Jerusalem said that the Israeli government expected an announcement from the White House in the coming days, announcing the embassy move and the formation of a special team to implement the move. According to the report, senior sources believe President Trump has resolved not to renew the 6-month waiver, which allows the U.S. Embassy to remain in Tel Aviv, and will announce the move before the last waiver expires on December 4th. Some other news out of Pakistan. This is from World Watch Monitor. I have Pakistan's anti-blasphemy protests showcase minorities' plight. Now, as we go through these pictures here, you may be wondering what's going on here. Are people's rights being infringed upon? Is there some kind of atrocious act that's happening by the government? Why are these people so mad? What's going on here, and all of that? Now, this here is because this here is protests against a government incident that took place in regards to not the Constitution, but I want to get the exact wording here for you. But this is all people who are saying, hey, the Prophet of Islam, supposed Prophet of Islam, right? Muhammad is being blasphemed here. Now, I want to give you a little bit of history as we go through these pictures. It says, in June 2014, the National Assembly constituted a parliamentary standing committee on electoral reforms to overhaul the existing electoral system. The committee in December 2016 tabled its amendments in the form of the Elections Bill 2016, which overturned several laws, including one which had forced the previous Prime Minister, Nawaz Sharif, to step down as the leader of his party, the Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz. But all that changed on October 2nd with the passing of the Elections Reform Bill, and the next day Sharif was reelected as the head of the party. In Pakistan, every Muslim in the form of a national identity card or as a member of the assembly has to declare that he is a Muslim and believes that Muhammad was the final prophet. Sharif's party said the Elections Reform Act simplified this declaration, but the opposition said it compromised the finality of the prophet and was thus, in effect, blasphemous, quote unquote. The National Assembly quickly met and restored the earlier version of the declaration, calling it a clerical error. But that did not address the voting system that Ahmadis would be allowed to use. Many called for the sacking of those responsible for the mistake, including Sharif's younger brother, Shahbaz, the chief minister of Punjab. Meanwhile, the preacher, Allama Hadim Hussein Rizvi, and his followers blamed the Ahmadis and the West for engaging in a conspiracy. So, you are seeing here the effect of the insinuation that someone in the government has blasphemed. And I have shown you maps in the past of countries in the world that actually have blasphemy laws in place. Of course, definitely, if you're in Saudi Arabia or Iran, where you're under full Sharia. But then we see even Australia is yellow on that map in that there are restrictions on speech. Now, here in the West, we see and we know that there are no restrictions on free speech. There are no blasphemy laws. And as this continued narrative of, Islamophobia, when any country, city, county, even an individual says, hey, you can't talk about Islam. You can't talk about this religion or that religion. You can't talk about this religious book. You can't talk about this supposed prophet. And then you agree with that or follow those commands. All you're doing is implementing aspects of Sharia upon yourself. Because if you lived under Sharia, those exact same rules would actually be law. That is the law under Sharia. You cannot criticize the Quran, Muhammad, the religion of Islam. That is why people in the West need to be aware of countries that do have blasphemy laws, where by doing any of those things, the punishments range from actual fines to actually being put to death. This is what people need to realize. And what happens when a country is under Sharia to any degree, for that matter. But of course, when it is under full Sharia, where again the penalty for this is death. Now, this is something again that's happened in Pakistan, and this is a warning to other countries, again, especially in the West, that don't have Sharia or blasphemy laws implemented in any way. This is the end result of having that kind of thing as a actual law on the books for society. So, as you can see, definitely problems here, right? Now, also from World Watch Monitor, I have out of Egypt, 21 churches receive long-delayed government approval to build. It says here, 21 churches in Egypt's southern rural Minya governorate can restore, expand, and rebuild their churches after receiving approval from the Minya governor. Governor Assam el-Badawi approved the 21 applications over the last 6 months. Some of the churches have been waiting for more than 20 years, 20, not months, 20 years for a permit to come through. On the 17th of November, an evangelical church in Tama, Sohag Governorate, also received permission to renovate its building. Some analysts note that the approvals have preceded several visits by international evangelical delegations to Cairo. Last week, leaders from evangelical churches around the world met Egypt's president, el-Sisi, in Cairo as part of the celebrations marking 500 years since the Reformation. This followed a visit in early November by a delegation of Christian evangelicals from the U.S. to meet evangelical leaders in Egypt. Now, of course, this is great. It's great that they finally got these permits, as you can actually read it all right there. But it is unfortunate that it took 20 years from some of these churches to get this. Why is that? Why is it taking 20 years? I mean, are people that lazy? Well, no. At least in this incident, that's not the case. It's because when you look to Egypt's history, and you look to the times that it's been underneath Muslim Brotherhood control, in all of that, that just extends this, because under Sharia, and we see this, if you go to Israel, you go to any of the Palestinian territories, you see a area that was obviously a demolished church, and you see a big mosque right next to it. You can't, under Sharia, rebuild. You can't build a new church to begin with. You can't even renovate old ones. So the mosques, built all the time, making them taller, bigger, better, all that stuff. But we see that the Christian houses of worship are on a steady decline, and they want them to continue to be that. That's why they don't allow them to build new ones or to renovate old ones. So it is great for a place like Egypt, which, of course, you have many Coptic Christians, but of course you have Muslim Brotherhood was birthed out of there in 1928 from Hassan al-Banna. And it's great to see this, and hopefully this is a continued trend, and hopefully it doesn't take this many years in the future for other churches to get approval to build or to rebuild or renovate or whatever they need to do. Now, here from CBN News, I have beginning of the Islamization of Christmas, ? Norway school includes Quran verses in Christmas program. An elementary school in the city of Skien, Norway, has announced its Christmas festivities this year will include not only the usual reading of verses from the Bible by students, but also 2 verses from the Quran. All of the verses in question are about Jesus, which Islam considers a prophet and not the Son of God. Han Tolg, the blogger who broke the story, says some changes to the school's traditional holiday program was inevitable. 40% of the students speak Norwegian as a second language if they speak it at all. Still, she added, the whole thing was pretty bizarre, quote unquote, since Christmas is not an Islamic holy day, and thanks to the misguided innovations, a whole generation of Norwegian children will grow up thinking, quote, that Allah and the Quran have something to do with Christmas. Ignored by Norway's mainstream media, the story was posted on an alternative news and commentary website and quickly became the most shared news story across the country. I have here from Toronto Sun, Trudeau rewards a terrorist with citizenship. Zakaria Amara is a convicted terrorist serving a life sentence for his role in a plot to murder scores of Canadians. And now, thanks to a Trudeau government bill passed through the Senate this week, Amara will soon be given the privilege of Canadian citizenship. After all, a Canadian, right? In this case of Amara, this Canadian, quote unquote, was born in Jordan and raised in Saudi Arabia. He came to Canada as a teenager, became a Canadian citizen as a young man, and by the time he turned 20, he was behind bars and charged with terrorism. Amara was the ringleader of a sophisticated terrorist cell known as the Toronto 18. He recruited, trained, and groomed fellow Islamist extremists and worked towards a deadly terrorist plot. Amara wanted to detonate bombs in downtown Toronto and coordinate shooting sprees at the CBC and the Toronto Stock Exchange. He planned to siege Parliament Hill in Ottawa and carry out executions and beheadings of politicians, including the Prime Minister. He wanted to mass murder Canadians, and even more so, he wanted to shatter our sense of safety and security. It would have forever changed Canada. Thankfully, the madman's plot was foiled by an undercover police sting operation. Amara pled guilty to terrorism charges and was slapped with a life sentence. Now, under the Harper government, Amara had his Canadian citizenship revoked and was set to be deported the moment he was released from prison. But things have changed under Justin Trudeau. Trudeau said during the 2015 election campaign that he believes, quote, terrorists should get to keep their Canadian citizenship. And now he's keeping good on that pledge. So, again, the title of this article is Trudeau Rewards a Terrorist with Citizenship. Find more details there at the Toronto Sun. But from CBN News, I have here debut of first ever hijab wearing Barbie draws applause and backlash. Now, you may have heard of this news story because it actually came out on the 15th, about a half a month ago. And I've been meaning to actually bring it up, but we had so many other news headlines. Again, it can only fit so much. But the interesting part about this is that this Barbie has now been created after this woman who is an Olympic fencer. And everyone, I mean, there's people celebrating. There are people who are mad about it. Okay. We have this Barbie toy, right? Who, I don't know how long Barbies have been out, but at no point have they, as far as I know, not that I've really done a whole lot of research on Barbies, I'm just saying, I mean, you don't see them having any type of religious garb, and all of a sudden, look, we're going to make the first, Muslim Barbie here. Why don't they, along with this, if they want to do this, create a Barbie wearing a necklace with a crucifix pendant on it? Why don't they have a Jewish Barbie? Why don't they have a Sikh Barbie? Why don't they have a Hindu Barbie or a Buddhist Barbie or something like that? As we see, once again, the religion of peace, more specifically and accurately, the religion of pieces, technically, and it's even when you say the religion of peace, it's not peace as in a Western sense. Again, the only peace that Islam is referring to is when the world is under Sharia, when the entire world is Darul Islam. There's no more Darul Harb, which is the house of war. So anyway, this is just something that, of course, has been out there. And again, where is the being equal here, right? we don't see this this equalness in a lot of different areas, and this is just one more area where it is a Muslim Barbie here, right? Like we talked about how, like on school campuses, wear a hijab day, have solidarity with Muslims. Oh, where is the table for wear a crucifix day? Have solidarity with the thousands, hundreds of thousands, or millions of Christians who have been killed by Muslims for the last 1,400 years just because they are Christians and because they wouldn't deny their faith and they wouldn't say the Shahada and become a Muslim as Islam continued to spread. So anyway, something that does need to be talked about. And of course, here from Breitbart News, I have former Islamic extremist warns terror will win if Arab nations don't do more to combat hatred and anti-Semitism. Terrorism will win as long as the Arab world continues to ignore the hatred and anti-Semitism that is rife in their societies. This is from Dr. Tawfiq Hamid, an Egyptian-born Muslim and former Islamist radical, who said this in the wake of the terror attack in Sinai. It says here, speaking to Breitbart Jerusalem, Hamid also praised Israel's response to the attack, which included condemnations from dozens of lawmakers as well as the prime minister and president, and said that such messages of support will show the Egyptian people, quote, just what a civilized nation Israel is. According to Hamid, Friday's attack on a Sufi mosque in northern Sinai that saw at least 305 people killed was, quote, another manifestation of the same disease that is plaguing other parts of the Middle East, as well as Europe, the United States, and Israel. However, he said the world is spending too many resources treating the symptoms of that disease. Instead, Hamid espouses a three-pronged approach to treating the disease itself. First and foremost, Hamid said the ideology that drives such hate needs to be confronted head-on. It says, quote, we need to offer an alternative form of ideology at a very young age, Hamid said, one that promotes peace instead of hatred and tolerance towards others. And again, this peace he's referring to is this peace and tranquility peace, not the Dar al-Islam peace that Islam refers to. In Hamid's estimation, the very way people in the Muslim world think needs to be changed. All modes of thinking that lead to radicalism must undergo an overhaul, and that includes absolutism, literalism, and casting judgment on others. To combat terror, better deterrents must be found. It says, quote, radicals need a very strong deterrent. Currently, if you were a terrorist, I call it a win-win-win scenario, he said. If a terrorist manages to capture territory, he's won, Hamid explained. If he dies, he's also won, since he gets automatic admission into paradise and all the trappings that go with it, apparently, or supposedly, right? Even if he's caught by Western militaries, for example, there will be some human rights group that will come to his aid, he said. For that reason, explained Hamid, the world needs to devise much stronger deterrents that are currently enforced. Or maybe aren't currently enforced, is what it meant supposed to say here. Following the Sinai attack, numerous Israeli politicians reiterated a call for an international coalition that would include moderate Arab states such as Egypt, as well as Israel, the U.S., and Russia to fight terror groups like IS and state sponsors of terror such as Iran. Now, on the same note of anti-Semitism here, I have here from Israel National News, an anti-Semitism panel led by anti-Semites. Of course, we have there none other than Linda Sarsour, New York State Assemblyman Dov, D-O-V, Hickend unloads on Linda Sarsour after she participated in panel discussion on anti-Semitism. New York State Assemblyman Dov Hickend unloaded on Palestinian-American activist Linda Sarsour for being a panelist at a conference discussing anti-Semitism. The conference, which was held at the New School in New York City, has drawn widespread criticism for the selection of marginal far-left figures, some of whom have themselves been accused of anti-Semitism. Hicken wrote on Facebook that the panel, quote, is like a scene from a Mel Brooks film. An anti-Semitism panel led by anti-Semites. Pinch me, I must be dreaming. Now, this here, again, is no surprise. We see how Sarsour and, of course, CAIR, the Council on American Islamic Relations, and all the political Islamists in the West basically are willing to work with every minority group out there, religious minority, racial minority, etc. And it is for the purpose of building relationships with them and getting them on their side. And of course, all of the minorities, Muslims or political Islamists seeing themselves as a religious minority, teaming up with other religious minorities, quote unquote, and of course, all the different racial minorities out there as a whole against the right and of course, against evangelical Christians. So, of course, Islam as a religion, Muhammad as a political leader, a religious leader, and a military leader wouldn't work with all these different people. But of course, the Muslim Brotherhood has a more laid-back approach and a slow Islamization of the West and building relationships with all people, from law enforcement to political leaders and all that stuff, trying to make Islam acceptable in the West, not letting these people know what their ultimate demise is as well. And, Sarsour, the kind of, she's basically someone who would probably say that, wearing the hijab, that is a, is sometimes to have solidarity, not to have solidarity for her because she is a Muslim, but, that ennobles women. I mean, this is a claim by a number of Muslims. Wearing the hijab, that ennobles women. Now, you can only make that claim in the West where you aren't forced to wear it. Now, I have a video for you here of a place where women are forced or intimidated to cover up, but women are standing up. So check out this video here.
من حجاب اجباری نیسته.
چرا اجباریه؟ تو مملکت ما اجباریه. تو خونت برو هر غلطی خواست اجباریه. چرا؟ من آدم خوبیم.
من دوستم توی زندگی کنم.
نه تو بیخود میکنی. گفتم برو تو خونت هر جور میخوای لخم. جلو هر کسی دوست داری لخم. تو مملکت
چه آزاری الان به بقیه دارم میرسونم؟
آزار به اسلام میزنی. آزار به دینش میزنی. این جوانای بدبختای بیچاره که دائما در ناراحتی هستن شماها باعثشون. چه وضعی آخه این چه وضعی؟
من خانواده‌ام با این قضیه مشکلی نداره.
بی خود کردن به خانواده تبو هسته.
سلام
سلام. من هر روز هفته رو مثل چهارشنبه ها برای اعتراض به حجاب اجباری روسری و
سلام. امروز چهارشنبه است. ما به کمپین چهارشنبه‌های سفید پیوستیم.
Now, we don't hear Linda Sarsour or the political Islamists standing up for the brave women of Iran. Instead, they have a 180 attitude over here in the West, trying to make Islam acceptable to the West, and, of course, calling anyone who has done their studying of Islam an Islamophobe, a racist, a bigot, or intolerant. And again, in my video, two videos that I've made, the Muslim Brotherhood, Origin, Identity, and Agenda, and also Unveiling the Facts of Sharia, both videos which are available on my Vimeo channel, vimeo.com/Tony Goulet, talk about these four popular ad hominem attacks and how each one of them completely breaks down. But here from Creeping Sharia, I have Michigan feminist lawyer vows to defend FGM doctor who circumcises girls. Again, this is one more topic, female genital mutilation, which is happening in the West, and it is not a North African thing. Like some people try to claim. It is an Islamic thing. Again, Unveiling the Facts of Sharia, a 45-minute presentation I put together, talks about FGM quite a bit, and it gives you a map of where it's happening throughout the world, and actually quoting primary Islamic sources from Sharia law books, that this is an actual Islamic practice and all of that. Now here, this is an ongoing news story about what's happening in Michigan with this doctor who has been circumcising girls, of course, got arrested and has now, I have here the details, the Detroit area doctor charged with mutilating the genitals of young girls in violation of federal law walked out of jail Tuesday, a free woman, as her lawyer was able to arrange the largest unsecured bond in the jurisdiction's history. Dr. Jumana Nargolwala, 44, a member of a Shia Muslim sect that practices a form of female genital cutting, posted a $4.5 million unsecured bond after some 15 friends and family members put their homes and other assets on the line. If she flees, they lose their property. Most of those who pledged their assets are believed to be fellow members of the Dawoodi Bohra, a Western India-based sect within the Ishmaelite community of Shia Muslims. Now, even with that description there, don't, let that make you think that, it's just a fringe group of Muslims who practice female genital cutting or female genital mutilation, actual cutting off of parts of the female genitalia. Again, in my video Unveiling the Facts of Sharia, it shows you that this is actually found in the primary sources themselves, and that this is happening all around the world. I mean, in the UK, like 5,000 cases of FGM were reported last year. It is crazy, and a lot of people are not aware of this. People need to be made aware. Also, too, speaking of the U.S., here in Ohio, I have mosque gives University of Cincinnati $1 million to teach more Islam. A local mosque is donating $1 million to the University of Cincinnati to increase understanding of the Islamic religion amid concerns about Islamophobia. UC is adding a titled professorship in Islamic studies thanks to the gift from the Islamic Center of Greater Cincinnati. Money originates from Inayat Malik and his wife, Ishrat Malik. Dr. Inayat Malik is a urologist and former 18-year board chair of the Islamic Center. He came from Pakistan in 1967 to specialize in urology at UC Medical Center and was a member of the UC College of Medicine clinical faculty for 20 years. So this is an ongoing thing that we see as well. We see wealthy people who are giving millions of dollars to different, even Ivy League schools to support and start, Muslim Christian understanding programs and Sharia law programs and all this stuff. So anyway, stay tuned to Islam in the News every single week to continue to get the news stories that you don't get in the mainstream media. Here from Clarion Project, I have Boston Islamic Seminary training next-gen extremists. New research by the Middle East Forum has uncovered evidence of extreme anti-Semitism. Among who? Among faculty members and guest speakers appointed by the Islamic Society of Boston and to teach and promote its latest project, the Boston Islamic Seminary, BIS. It was established in 2016 to, quote, equip future religious leaders with the intellectual, spiritual, and practical training to serve the American Muslim community. Currently, it offers, quote, continuing education classes, but it hopes to offer an accredited graduate program by 2019, which will, quote, train chaplains, imams, and other leaders to serve in a variety of contexts. So, again, an ongoing thing that we are seeing, but the mainstream media doesn't talk about that. What is surprising, though, is that the mainstream media has talked about, and a lot of people some people are mad about this, some people are really happy about this, that Trump has retweeted some tweets from a woman in the UK. And the first news story I have here about this is, why is Britain first big online? This is from BBC. It says, from the outset, Britain's first aim has been to make noise on Facebook and other networks rather than to get people elected. The group has nearly 2 million likes, far outpacing the Labour Party of 1 million and the Conservatives' 650,000. But the UK's most popular political organization on Facebook has been a washout when it comes to electoral politics. So this is mainly in the news here, and this just came out yesterday, or day before. And the reason why is because, again, of some tweets that President Donald Trump sent out. So, of course, he tweets a lot of stuff, and that, spotlights certain things. So how can people not look to what he is spotlighting and at least try to demonize it or whatever else, which, of course, we see a lot. I have here from Daily Mail. It says, May, this is referring to May from UK. May blasts Trump for retweeting videos posted by the deputy leader of Britain First, including footage claiming to be a Muslim man destroying a statue of Virgin Mary, but his invite for a state visit still stands. Donald Trump has retweeted 3 anti-Muslim videos posted by far-right group. Videos posted by Britain's First, Jada Franson, show Muslims, quote-unquote, committing crimes. Labour MPs say Mr. Trump is not welcome here, quote-unquote, and call for the invite's withdrawal. Joe Cox MP was shot and stabbed last year by a man who shouted, Britain First. So this is what we're getting from Daily Mail, right? We're getting same type of reaction here that we might get from the mainstream media in the U.S., right? Demonizing it, confusing Muslims with Islam. One is a group of people, another is a religion, a religio-political system, to be more precise, that was started 1,400 years ago by the supposed perfect man of all time and perfect Muslim of all time. His name was Muhammad. And this is, again, it's a good thing that we're getting some spotlight here on what's happening, because, and this is something I just put on Facebook the other day, this has helped spotlight something that's been happening for a long time. And actually, we have a video for you here that goes along with this story. This actually came out in March of 2017, but this is something that you need to spread around. Another reason to share this video right here. People need to see this video as well. So let's go and play it for you now.
This is not Karachi, it's London. Britain's policy of mass immigration has brought what one expert is calling demographic upheaval to the United Kingdom.
It's now a demographic certainty. Someday, the white native English will be a minority in their own country. It's just a matter of when.
Also the native Welsh and the Scots. David Coleman is Supernumerary Fellow in Human Sciences and University Professor in Demography at Oxford. He's written that uncontrolled immigration could lead to a finis Britanniae,
which simply means the end of Britain. And by that I mean the end of Britain as we know it. The change in the number of people, and particularly the change in the origins of the people, in their religion, in their cultural background and everything, would make Britain unrecognizable compared with the present time.
Immigration can strengthen a nation, but several Western nations, including the U.S., are debating the wisdom of large-scale immigration from the Islamic world. And experts are asking what will happen as Muslim numbers continue to grow in officially Christian Britain. In the dystopian masterpiece Children of Men, Britain in 2027 is racked by ethnic division and civil war. Muslim armed gangs fight a government that is hunting down and deporting immigrants and trying to maintain order. Britain's future is not likely to be this violent, but it may not be peaceful either. When the Christian activist group Britain First took large crosses through the English town of Luton last year, angry Muslims confronted them.
It's your country, is it? Yeah?
Your country? What, it's a Christian country. It's a Christian country. Yes, it is. This is a Christian country.
You're jealous that we're taking over?
Muslims will take over what?
Urban areas are becoming increasingly Islamic, whereas rural areas are becoming increasingly English, and there's a retreat away from these two populations from each other. That's the future that is already happening, that the media isn't interested in.
Policy analyst George Igler says he does not believe it will take 40 or 50 years before the native British are a minority.
This is a nonsense. It's going to be much sooner. And more importantly, when you look at places like Luton, we already have an understanding. We already have a window into what this future will be like. It's going to be violence and sexual violence against non-Muslims. It's going to be Sharia law.
Muslims are still said to be only 5% of the population, and some experts insist they will never be the majority in Britain. Immigration also includes Christians from Africa. Professor Coleman, who stressed he is not anti-Muslim, but is simply looking at statistics, nevertheless said the changes could be drastic.
This is already manifest because there are strong currents in Muslim society which wish to see Muslim approaches to diet, to marriage, and would like to see Sharia law incorporated formally into British law, or in respect of some extremist groups would like to see Sharia law replace British law.
More than 500,000 non-British citizens immigrated to the United Kingdom in 2016. Open borders was a big reason the British voted for Brexit, to leave the European Union. But Coleman says Brexit will not stop immigration from non-European nations.
Jihad is on its way! Jihad!
Great Britain was already a factory for terrorists before last week's attack on Westminster Bridge by a British-born Muslim. At least 850 British citizens have left the UK to join ISIS.
We have around 100 Sharia courts in this country. We're the only Western country with a functioning Sharia network of Sharia tribunals and councils. They're dealing with marriages, with divorce, even with criminal matters. They're marrying, as I said, they're marrying children.
If current trends continue, British schools will change when most of the pupils are from non-British backgrounds, as will British foreign policy and military alliances.
England is not going to be England anymore.
The English Defence League, in its street protest against the Islamization of Britain, used to sing, "We want our country back." If current demographic trends continue, it may be too late for that. Dale Hurd, CBN News, London.
Now, do we hear any news agency in the West sharing that video? No, they are conveniently ignoring that one, right? They actually show what Trump spotlighted, but they say, hey, look, you're calling them Muslims. They're not. You're saying that this is something that happened by a Muslim. It didn't. Again, the good thing about these tweets is that it has spotlighted the UK. And we've done shows here. We did the Islamization of the UK with Tommy Robinson. We've done, I've mentioned, news stories from the UK over and over and over in different episodes of Islam in the News over the last year. So people need to be made aware of this. So if you want to give your friends a political present this holiday season, then share this episode of Islam in the News with them. But also, hey, you might want to get them some books that also back up what that video just shared with you. The first one here is no-go zones. How Sharia law is coming to a neighborhood near you. This is by Rahim Qasim, and this is available online. Of course, you go to Amazon, wherever you go to buy books. It says here, that's what they're called. And while the politically correct tries to deny their existence, the shocking reality of these no-go zones, where Sharia law can prevail and local police stay away, can be attested to by its victims. Now, in that video that you just saw, they had said that Muslims make up 5% of the UK. And you saw that video of what it is like there. Now, again, we want to separate Muslims from the religion. Muslims are people made in the image of God who need a savior. Islam is a religio-political system. You cannot divorce, ultimately, the religion aspect from the political aspect. Muhammad himself was a military leader, political leader, and religious leader. He founded the first Islamic state. People need to understand this. Now, the second book that you might want to get is called The Strange Death of Europe: Immigration, Identity, and Islam. This is by Douglas Murray. This is a highly personal account of a continent and culture caught in the act of suicide. Declining birth rates, mass immigration, and cultivated self-distrust and self-hatred have come together to make Europeans unable to argue for themselves and incapable of resisting their own comprehensive alteration as a society and an eventual end. Another book that just came out this year, this came out in June, and a third book that you might want to get is one that's been out since January of 2017. This is Stealth Invasion: Muslim Conquest Through Immigration and Resettlement Jihad. This is by Leo Hohmann, a writer for WND, WorldNet Daily. Americans are shocked by ongoing news reports chronicling growing chaos in Europe, where massive Muslim immigration is wreaking havoc on the continent, including horrendous acts of mass terrorism, an epidemic of rape and sexual assault against European women, and large jihadist-rich enclaves where even police are hesitant to enter. And what's that referring to? Back to the no-go zones, the book by Rahim. So these are three books that you may want to get your friend, especially if they're in the West. As I've said before, we need to look to the UK, because we can either learn from their mistakes or we are going to follow in their footsteps. Christianity there is pretty much dead. It leaves a vacuum of secularism. And who is the strongest group who wants to take over that? Well, that's usually going to be a group that isn't just religious, but a group that has a religio-political system, and that is the religio-political system of Islam. A quote by Winston Churchill was, "When Muslims are in the minority, they are very concerned with minority rights. When they are in the majority, there are no minority rights." That is something to think about. That is what some people in the UK are thinking about, saying, man, he knew he was way ahead of his time on this. And that's because he studied Islam. He wanted to know, what this was about. And here in the West, we have many people who don't know about Islam. And we want to encourage people to love their Muslim neighbors, to share the gospel with their Muslim neighbors. Don't be afraid of Muslims. Reach out to them. If you're a Christian, you are a Muslim's only hope. They're not going to hear the gospel from anybody else. And it's the gospel is the power of God unto salvation. They didn't realize that Islam is false. There is a God, but it is not the Allah who they are taught to believe in. The Quran is not his word. The eternal word of God is not a book. It is a person, the Lord Jesus Christ, who took on a second nature, human nature, died on the cross, and rose from the dead 3 days later. Now, these last two pictures here is one of them I showed a couple weeks ago, I believe. It is a picture of Miss Iraq and Miss Israel, and they sent this out because they're part of the beauty contest that's happening in Las Vegas, or maybe just recently happened in Las Vegas. And this next picture is Miss Iraq and Miss Egypt. Wouldn't it be great if all people in Egypt and Israel and Iraq could get along as well as these ladies? Of course, that is a great hope that we have. And how can that great hope come to fruition? That is when people throughout the world, Muslims, Jews, and every other group realize what born-again Christians already have, that Jesus Christ is the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father except through him. We wish you a blessed holiday season, and not just holiday, but specifically Christmas season this month as we are in the month of December. Please get this video of this particular episode of Islam in the News. Share it with everyone out there. They need information. And please, of course, stay tuned every single Friday to Islam in the News, your Islamic news source, only found on ABN's Trinity channel. Please continue to pray and support this network, and that will allow these vital shows to continue. God bless you, and good night.